Liz Kendall, can you tell us exactly what Ollie Robbins did to lose the confidence of both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary just a year after he took up office?
I think it was wrong not to tell the Prime Minister or the Foreign Secretary that UK security vetting advised against the appointment and that the Foreign Office took a different view. I think that was wrong at the start and then subsequently wrong because, as you well know, Trevor, the Prime Minister and ministers made a series of statements in Parliament about it. I think that was a failure, and that's why, he lost the confidence of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary.
Well, look, I want to come to that, because I've been entertaining myself by reading the rules here. But before we get on to that, let's just deal with the personnel question. Ollie Robbins was on the Prime Minister's shortlist of 4 Mandarins to be Cabinet Secretary. He didn't get that job, but he and the Deputy Prime Minister were so impressed by Robbins, they gave him the next best job in the civil service, Permanent Secretary at the Foreign Office, on a 5-year contract. What does this tell us about the Prime Minister's judgment of people? Pretty poor.
I don't agree with that. I think the failure of judgment here was the failure to tell the Prime Minister that, the Peter Mandelson, who actually is responsible for all of this. Let me just say that, and I will answer all your questions here, but the person that I'm angry with
but the person
is Peter
who got
Mandelson
sacked is Ollie Robbins.
Well,
a
so
year
did Peter
ago,
Mandelson,
he
Trevor.
was good enough to get the number 2 job running the country, and suddenly he's become a liability?
Yes, I think it was a real serious mistake not to tell the Prime Minister or the Foreign Secretary that the Foreign Office took a different view from UK security vetting, not just at the start.
I get that point, but
I think that was wrong.
Let's just bear in mind,
that's why he lost
you just said
the
Peter
confidence.
Mandelson was the problem. The person who chose both Peter Mandelson and Ollie Robbins, actually, was the Prime Minister.
Peter Mandelson withheld information at the start of this whole thing, then repeatedly lied, and he is who I am angry with because there has been in recent days no mention
You say that he withheld information. Everybody in the country who could read a newspaper knew all the things that the Prime Minister then said was wrong with Peter Mandelson. Everybody knew it.
Let me just say this, and I will answer that question. But throughout all recent days, there's been barely any mention of who has really suffered from this, which is the women who were trafficked and abused by Jeffrey Epstein, and a man who, at the heart of this, covered up the information about his relationship here. But the Prime Minister, I think, is right to say, and the Foreign Secretary, that it was wrong not to tell them that he had not passed the UK security vetting, and he would not have been appointed if the Prime Minister had known that at the time.
If your case now is that everybody should have had the women concerned, the women who were exploited, who were trafficked by Epstein, everybody should have had those women at the front of their mind, and I agree with you.
Good.
Why did the Prime Minister appoint somebody who he knew at the time of appointment had been a friend of Epstein's, who he could have known if he had just read the paper or somebody told him, had stayed in Epstein's home, and who was still in contact with Epstein and would have had to say so if the Prime Minister had actually asked him? You will
know, Trevor, that the Prime Minister has rightly, in my view, said that the appointment was a mistake, and he's apologised for that.
No. This is not the point I'm making. You're just saying anybody who had any sense, cared about this, thought about the women involved,
I'm just saying
would have taken a different decision. The Prime Minister had all that information at his disposal at that point. He still made the decision. So, is he one of the people who ignored the women?
Absolutely not.
Well, he must have done it by your logic.
Let me tell you.
Why did he appoint Peter Mandelson?
Let me tell you this. I have never had a Prime Minister in my lifetime who has cared as much or has done as much about violence against women and girls.
You're still not answering my question. If he cared so much and this was such a big deal, why did he appoint somebody who he knew was an associate of a convicted paedophile who stayed in his home?
Well, you will know that he withheld information about it, that he lied about the extent of his relationship. And that is why the Prime Minister...
Everybody in the country knew that.
That is why the Prime Minister said that that appointment was a mistake and has apologised about it. And where we started on all of this, Trevor, rightly so, is you want to know why Sir Ollie Robbins lost the confidence of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary. And the truth of it is, I think it was wrong not on such a serious and important and high-profile appointment not to tell the Prime Minister that Peter Mandelson was not given the go-ahead by UK security vetting. That was wrong, that was a mistake, and that is why he's lost their confidence.
So, when the Prime Minister makes a mistake, knowing what everybody in the country knew, he can come along and say, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And we go, OK, fine.
I don't think...
Yet, everybody else who makes a mistake, Robbins, McSweeney, Gray, lose their job. Why isn't he losing his job?
Because the Prime Minister, on the big calls facing this country, has made the right calls. Whether that is on the war and saying that we will not get involved with a war with no clear objective and no clear exit plan, whether it is on the crucial issues of investing in the defence of this country. You asked me a question.
You've just told me you got it wrong.
Because on the fundamental judgments facing this country, whether it's on international issues, rebuilding our relationship with the EU, saying we won't get involved in the war, investing in our defence, or whether it's on domestic issues, lifting children out of poverty, tackling violence against women and girls, all of the big fundamental issues facing this country.
Honestly,
the Prime Minister
has
made the right job. Well, that's how I look at it. You ask me.
You can list all of those things, but we are discussing...
Yes, I can, and I'm very proud to.
The appointment to the most important diplomatic post that the country can offer, in a situation where we are dealing with what your colleagues have said to me...
And when he found out...
...is a capricious and unreliable ally, somebody who sees the most sensitive documents, knows all the secrets, knows who our spies are and all of that. You're just telling me this is actually not that important.
That he
made a mistake, and frankly, all he has to do is come to the dispatch box, say, you know what, sorry, mate, I made a mistake. Can we get on with some other stuff now?
Because I think he is an honest man.
And sack everybody else.
And a man of integrity who says... It was a mistake to appoint him, and he removed Peter Mandelson. And I think that he is a man of honesty and integrity. And you know what, Trevor? Tomorrow in the House of Commons, he will face all of these issues and questions, and he will lay all the facts before Parliament.
All right, he's been out and he's had some things to say himself. I just want to check some of them. Is it correct that Peter Mandelson agreed that the conditions of his appointment should be varied in a way that meant, for example, he wasn't permitted to meet former clients? And if so, why would Oliver Robbins raise a red flag over that? They'd made an arrangement. It was a done deal. Presumably, the Prime Minister knew about that. Why would he tell the Prime Minister?
Why would who tell the Prime Minister?
Why would Ollie Robbins? The security vetting was done and all of that. The regulations and the law, the Constitutional Reform and Governance Act, which I had the pleasure of reading yesterday. I also read the diplomatic service regulations. Robbins is not required to tell anybody anything other than that the candidate, in this case Mandelson, had been granted developed vetting. The information from the Security Vetting Service is advisory. So he is not legally required to tell anybody anything. Why should he?
Well, you'll know that the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has written to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee to say she has ordered an urgent review of all the facts and information that's been provided to the committee, and I think that will be made available. And the Prime Minister, as I said, is going to come in front of MPs tomorrow to lay out all the information and to answer people's questions about who said what and when and what people are
Downing
required
Street's
to
asked you to
know.
come out this morning to try and explain.
No, actually, I offered to come on to talk about social media and AI, but let's put that to one side.
Sadly, that may come a bit later in this interview if we have time. But you are representing the government this morning.
Yes, I am.
Do you know if Downing Street knew about the arrangement, the understandings that Ollie Robbins made with Peter Mandelson to deal with business interests and all that, what they call the mitigations that arose out of the security vetting?
Well, they know that he was granted this developed vetting status, and I'm sure in the information
But did they know about the mitigations?
Mitigations are often put in place, as you know, with a whole range of appointments that are made within government to make sure people's personal or business financial issues are dealt with properly. And I'm sure the Prime Minister will set out more about that tomorrow.
But the question is, did he know that there were mitigations? Because if he knew that, he must then have known that there was an issue with the vetting.
I would say that putting mitigations in place is more common across government when people are appointed into lots of different
No, I'm not asking about...
roles.
I'm just asking, do you know if the Prime Minister knew that there had been mitigations agreed?
He knows that he was told that all due process had been followed on a whole range of different issues.
But that's an answer to a different question, though.
Well, it's saying that he knew that he'd been given developed vetting status. What he didn't know was that the UK security vetting had actually advised against it. And that's what the whole problem... I don't want to keep coming back to this here, that the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary and no other minister knew that UK security vetting had recommended don't appoint.
Well, look, here's the key thing. They didn't do the developed vetting until after Mandelson's appointment had been...
And we've changed that now. The Prime Minister has changed that.
But let's go back to where we're...
Well, he recognises that was a problem and he's changed it.
Mandelson's appointment was announced, I think, December the 19th, 2024. Developed vetting didn't happen until after that. The Prime Minister announced to the world this guy was going to get the job. There was absolutely no point on the development. It killed the developed vetting, didn't it?
Do you know what? I don't...
Because he'd already been given the job.
Can I tell you, I don't agree with that, because the one thing I know about Keir Starmer is that if, even at the last minute, the day before the President's inauguration, he had been told that he had not been past the UK security vetting, he wouldn't have appointed him.
So to be clear,
withdrawn that.
So to be clear, having announced that Mandelson was getting the job, if he had then discovered that there was...
Yeah, he would.
There was not a clean bill of... He would have rescinded this.
Yes, he would, yeah.
You know what I think that the problem here is?
And I'll tell you why, because he is a man of integrity. And there is no way that he would have proceeded with that. Whatever the so-called embarrassment, he would have thought that was wrong and he would not have done it.
I know this is what is being said now, but your colleague,
Peter
Kyle,
the
speaking to me beginning of the autumn, put a different light on this. He said that you knew that there was a risk. Here's what he said.
These are decisions that the Prime Minister made. We knew that there were risks involved, but also his talent led us to believe at the time that the risk was worth it.
You knew the risks involved.
Well, I think
you talk about Starmer as a man of integrity. He gambled, and the gamble failed.
I think what Peter was referring to there was obviously Peter Mandelson's relationships with his business issues, and that's what Peter is referring to there.
No, he wasn't. I was sitting there. You were sitting there. I was talking to him. He talked about Mandelson's previous defenestrations from the cabinet.
Yes, of course, everybody knew about that.
He knew about the relationship with Epstein. That was the risk he was talking about. China. All of these things were known to the Prime Minister at the point of the appointment. And that is what Peter Kyle was saying. You knew that there was a problem, but you decided to gamble with the country's security.
No, we did not. I completely refute that the Prime Minister would do anything to put the UK's security at risk. The precise opposite. And of course, people knew that Peter Mandelson had been sacked from the Cabinet twice. I mean, that's a statement of fact.
All right. On September the 11th last year, a journalist called David Maddox wrote to the Director of Communications at Number 10, Tim Allen, saying that he'd been told by two sources that Mandelson had not cleared vetting, asking for a comment. Here's Allen's reply. Basically, he says vetting was done by the Foreign Office in a normal way. Was Allen being, as they say, economical with the truth, or did he just not know that there had been a problem with the vetting?
You will have to ask those questions to Tim Allen yourself. I'm not going to speak on behalf of him, and I don't think that's fair.
He was responding for the Prime Minister to a journalist. The question, the Prime Minister is now saying he didn't know anything about this vetting.
Let me go back to what I said. All ministers were told that he had got developed vetting status. We were not told that the Foreign Office took that decision, whereas the UK security vetting advised against. We were not told that. We're just coming back to the same issue here, Trevor. And if we had known that, he wouldn't have been appointed in the first place.
The reason this has become such a big issue is that it is a question of the Prime Minister's character. People say Keir Starmer can be ruthless, but people can be ruthless for all sorts of reasons, including that they will do anything to shift the blame for their own errors onto others. Put the blame on Robbins today, McSweeney tomorrow, maybe David Lammy the day after. Can you look me in the face and say that you still have confidence in this Prime Minister and you are happy
100%.
To be led by him into the next general election?
100%. Because he is a man of guts and strength and courage.
Who blames every other person that he can see and never takes responsibility for himself?
He does take responsibility. And he is a man on the big decisions facing the country who makes the right calls on getting a grip of our public finances, of investing in our defence and NHS, of not getting involved in a war with no clear objective and no clear exit plan, who has focused on the things that have mattered to me my whole life, getting kids out of poverty and tackling violence against women and girls. That is why I support the Prime Minister, because on the big judgments facing the country, he's made the right call, no matter what pressure is put on him.
In the obviously unlikely and unfortunate event that there are all these people under the bus, in the unlikely event that the bus accidentally runs over the Prime Minister, who's your favourite to take over?
Keir Starmer is my favourite to be the Prime Minister, to take us into the next election.
If he's unfortunate.
Let me tell you right now, with the cost of living crisis that people are facing, and with the world so uncertain and deeply frightening to people, any politician that focuses more on their future and their job, not on people's futures and their jobs, will lose the public support. That is why I back Keir Starmer, because through this whole week, what has he been focusing on? He's been focusing on keeping the Straits of Hormuz open, meeting with 50 countries with Macron. He met with the social media bosses with me to hold them to account for their action. He is focusing on what matters to people in this country, and he has my full support to continue to do so.
I know you've got to go, but you're saying all...
I'm happy to chat away for ages, Trevor. Keep it coming.
But you see, what's interesting is we could have been talking about all of those things, but we can't.
I'm not going to deny this has been a testing time.
Because of the Prime Minister's own mistake and the fact that he
because of Peter Mandelson.
To most people...
Because of Peter Mandelson's actions.
But he's responsible for Peter Mandelson to come back into the public sphere at all. It's his decision. Peter Mandelson didn't just wander in and say, I want a Washington job, and somebody gave it to him.
Nobody said that, Trevor, so please don't put up a straw... Don't put up a straw man. You're far too experienced to do that.
Keir Starmer chose him. It's his responsibility. We could be talking about all sorts of other things, but Starmer made this decision and won't take
denying that
the responsibility for it.
This whole torrid episode has been an extremely testing time. You wouldn't believe me if I said anything otherwise.
OK.
But what the people of this country want us to do is to focus on the issues that matter to him, to make the right big calls. And that is what the Prime Minister has done.
Liz Kendall, thank you so much.